Hello, and welcome back to ShySpace, where we talk about all things pertaining to mental health and manifestation. My name is Shy. If you're new here, thanks for joining. If you're a returner, thanks for returning. So happy to be back here. And I'll tell you why. Because I was just here like literally 20 minutes ago. I recorded an entire episode, and it wasn't until I was done with the episode that I realized that my microphone was not fully plugged in. Therefore, my audio sounded like shite. I tried everything in my power, my little, very tiny amount of power that I have in the audio editing world to make it sound better. Then I did some research on different softwares that I could use to try to make it better. But I just thought to myself, am I really going to try paying for another software when the software that I already paid for that's really awesome did not work? Like, sorry, you can't just record a podcast without a microphone and then expect it to sound good. And I absolutely was mortified at just the thought of people listening to that atrocity. So, anyways, we're back. We're starting from scratch. And it's just really pleasant and perfect that that happened for this episode specifically because of what we're going to be talking about today. If you saw the episode title, Breakup Diaries, oh, I wonder what it's about. Shocker, I went through a breakup recently, and therefore that is the inspiration for this week's episode. So, really fun, honestly, to get to be able to do this twice and just talk about all of it twice. It's just, double the trauma for half the price. So I'm here for it, ladies. Let's get into it. Um, so first and foremost, I just wanted to say that I actually was not going to film an episode for a while. I canceled all my subs for the softwares that I use to do my podcast because I was planning to move and I just had a lot going on. So I canceled my subscriptions, and then lo and behold, a breakup. And I was like, let's get back in the chair and let's chat. And it was hilarious too, because my mom actually made a comment to me one of the times when we were talking about the breakup, and she was like, you asked the universe for more inspiration for your podcast, which is true. I had not been feeling inspired, and you got it. And I was like, oh, that's so funny. Isn't it funny how when you ask the universe for things, it just comes in and tornadoes your life and throws things around and, messes with things. And then you're like, that's not what I asked for. But it actually is what you asked for. You just don't know that until later. So we're running through the tornado. It is what it is. We'll get into all of that in a second. I'm moving to Austin next week, so I'm super excited about that. I've been in Dallas for a year and a half now, and I was originally planning to move to Austin with a friend of mine, and then she decided she didn't want to move. Once she told me that, I was like, okay, I don't really know why I'm staying here because I can leave and go to Austin now. I could spend the summer in Austin, which would be freaking awesome. It's going to be a great summer, and I'm really excited. I also bought an entire new set of podcasting equipment to have guests in person on the show. So if you live in Austin and you want to be on the podcast and you have something interesting that you want to talk about, hit my line. I will be having people at my apartment to come and chat about all things mental health, manifestation, really whatever you want to talk about. Anything goes in the world of ShySpace. So those are some exciting life updates. I'm really excited for the move. There's also some surrounding cities that I'm a big fan of. In Austin, there's a place called Spicewood that I'm a huge fan of, and it reminds me so much of Topanga Canyon back home. It just feels like home, and I just love it there. There's tons of young people in Austin. It's a great place to be for somebody who's young and single and just, doing life. I can't believe that I've gone 6 minutes now and I haven't mentioned this. For anybody who's not watching on YouTube, I'm wearing a hat right now that says, "I'm not like other girls, I'm worse." So I just felt like that was appropriate considering the topic of today's conversation, and I just wanted to call that out for anyone who doesn't have the pleasure of seeing that in front of their eyes right now. It's also pink, and I hate the color pink, but I'm kind of digging it right now in this POV. But yeah, call a spade, right? I mean, if the hat fits, wear it, rep it, and be proud about it. Be prideful. Okay. So, anyways, last update that I want to share with you guys before I dive into the tea about the breakup and then talk through some healing tips and tricks for anybody who's going through a breakup is that I officially launched my merch. I think I launched it in like April, and I have 3 designs that I've put out for ShySpace hoodies, but I'm making so many more. I just haven't launched any of them. And I'm also like open to requests or anything custom. So if there's anybody who wants a hoodie that says a quote that they like or something that they think would align with the ShySpace vibe, I will make it. But anyways, this is meant to be an extremely respectful episode. I'm not going to discuss core details that people would want to know out of respect for my ex and I relationship. And I do want to preface this by saying that we have already spoken and cleared the air. We're on good terms. Everything is good, but it doesn't change the fact that I went through something that was obviously really shitty and it really impacted me. And it taught me a lot. And I realized a lot that I wanted to share with people who I know will benefit from it, because everybody goes through breakups, whether or not you've been through one, you're going to go through one in the future, or you're going through one right now, like I am technically. It's going to happen to you. And this is going to be an episode that is designed to help you understand what you're going through and how you can just leverage the pain and turn it into power. It sounds so cliche, but it's such a tangible idea because it really is true. Pain generates a lot of energy in your body, and you can actually use that wisely. It's just really hard to get to that point. That's where people tend to struggle and fall into unhealthy, toxic behaviors or patterns. Basically, to make a long story short, my ex just kind of felt like he was no longer happy in the relationship, so he ended things with me. And it was very out of the blue. I was very shocked by it. I had just spent the weekend meeting his entire family, so I really, really was caught off guard. It's not to say that our relationship was perfect and that there wasn't issues that we had dealt with and whatnot, but I still was caught off guard regardless. So I think that's the first part that is like the most difficult for what I experienced and what I want to speak to for other people who go through that, because I think when it's a shock to the system, it's just like 50 times harder to go through it. I'm really, really proud of myself for getting through it so quickly, because I genuinely thought that day when he broke up with me that I was never going to be okay again. That's dramatic. I knew I was going to be okay, but when I thought about it logistically, I was like, this is going to take me months to get over. And I was really sad because I just kept thinking about how like I had worked so hard to get to this place of positivity and peace, and I was really happy and my life was going so well, and I was worried that this was going to bring me back down into a really bad place. Luckily, it didn't, and that's because I have the tools at my disposal that I didn't used to have. So I want to share that. Anyways, that's the first component. The second component is just like, I think being on the receiving end of a breakup is a lot different than being the dumper. This isn't something that I've experienced really in this capacity in my life. So it was another thing that was really hard for me to understand and just process, because it didn't make sense to me. Like I said, it was out of the blue, and I had a hard time empathizing for the other side of the situation, which is not something that I ever want to carry into my future. And it's not something that I think anyone should carry. One of the first things that I have on my outline for the episode is to talk about how when someone breaks up with you, you should thank them, which is like, for some people, probably would be the craziest thing to hear. And a past version of myself would say the same thing. Why would you thank somebody when they just broke your heart? Like, that person's an asshole. I'd go off. I'd pop off. I'm a fire sign. I'd put them in their place. Anybody who's a fire sign understands, but it's a defense mechanism, right? Because you're hurting, you're scared. You're projecting that onto the other person because you want to defend yourself and try to protect yourself in some twisted way. But the thing is, just because somebody is breaking up with you doesn't make it any easier for that party to go through the breakup. So empathy is everything. Like understanding, giving grace, giving empathy, being loving unconditionally is everything. Because at the end of the day, if you are in a relationship with somebody and you care about them, you're going to take that with you for life. So let's skip all the drama and just get to a place of positivity and care. I just think that breakups don't have to be as ugly and horrible as they are. And I think that there's this weird expectation that like when you break up with somebody, it's like they should not be in your life, and like that's that. Like goodbye, you're done. Like I just don't align with that. I don't agree with it. And it's hard because you have to find a boundary in the middle while you're healing so that you can then get to the place of positivity. Circling back to the comment of if someone breaks up with you, thank them. The reason that I say that is because why would you ever want to be with somebody who doesn't want to be with you? Like, just try and answer that question for me. Riddle me this. Why would you ever want to be with somebody who doesn't want to be with you? Right? You don't. So it's a blessing from the universe. It's a blessing from God, whatever you believe in. It's a blessing from that person that they broke up with you so that you can then move on with your life and not waste time and find the person that is meant for you, that wants to be with you, because that's what you deserve at the end of the day. So they're doing you a favor by not staying with you and lying to you and trying to make it work with you when it's not going to, or when they don't really want to. It's so easy to get caught up in this victim mindset or this woe is me mode of like, I did this, this, and this for you. I would have done anything. And I'm not acting like I'm a perfect person at all. And I'm not acting like I did not go, woe is me on my ex when he first pulled that card because I was shocked, obviously. And I immediately went into that mode where I was just like, I can't believe this is happening. You got to be kidding me. But then afterwards, I was like, oh my God, it is a blessing because at the end of the day, it's not going to work out because I don't want to be with anyone who doesn't want to be with me. So it's like, okay, thank you for telling me. Now let's move on. It's life. People break up, they divorce, they cheat, they do all types of things. It's shitty, it sucks, and it is what it is. The sooner that you can just accept that and have a positive attitude about it, the better that your life is going to be. And that obviously goes for anything in life, but especially when it comes to breakup and things pertaining to loss, because loss is such a difficult experience for humans to go through. It's a very multifaceted experience that if you've never experienced it, you don't really know how to deal with it. At least for me personally, the older that I am, the more tools that I have at my disposal, the more experience that I have to know more about people's behaviors and patterns and things like that. At the end of the day, it's also a lot of childhood related shadow work. I know that in that moment when I'm getting my heart broken and somebody's breaking up with me, there's a 14-year-old version of me and a 16-year-old version of me and a 20-year-old version of me that are all re-experiencing that almost. There's versions of you that still exist inside of you that may not have healed fully, and they're experiencing those things over. So it just feels, you know, a lot heavier sometimes. Once you realize that, again, it makes it easier to work through it and to heal and move on. Just a reminder, always take the high road. You will never regret that. That is the one piece of advice that I can take from my parents that I will always, always, always teach others. I'll teach my children. Anybody that comes into my path that wants to be taught, I will teach them. Always take the high road because there's nothing worse than feeling guilty about the way that you treated somebody in a situation and not being able to go back and correct your actions and correct your mistakes, because saying you're sorry only goes so far. And I know that everybody can relate to that because we all make mistakes and we all hurt people. It doesn't have to just be in a breakup. It could be during a relationship. It could be a friendship. It could be a familial relationship. We all mess up. So try not to because a breakup is hard enough, and having to feel that remorse for the way that you acted on top of the pain of the breakup is just a double-edged sword. So try to protect your peace. On the note of protecting your peace, this is going to be a controversial one. And this is actually one that I was not really akin to in more recent years. I used to be a fan of it just out of like pure immaturity and hatred. Now I thought that it was immature, so I didn't want to do it. But I had some conversations with my loved ones and talked about removing on social media, the big bad social media, the big bad gram. So yes, I did remove my ex-boyfriend on social media. Not because I hate him or I don't care about what's going on in his life, but because I was being crazy and I needed to protect my peace. Girls, honestly, not even just girls, anybody with a phone. There's so much information at your disposal. It's sickening and it's very toxic, and having access to that is not healthy. And I will be the first to admit that having that information at my disposal is not good because I will use it and I will look for things and I will get upset. So protecting your peace is really important, and I highly encourage anybody who is in a similar situation to just remove her, him, they, them from social media, not just the big bad gram, but all of the social medias. It's key to just forgive and forget, right? Head down, forget about it, move on. And then when you're in a healed, happy place, you can actually have a friendship that's genuine and it's not littered with emotions and trauma and toxicity, and you can re-add them. Like, that's totally fine. I do that with everybody that I've dated. I have good relationships with everybody that I've dated, but it took time to get there with every single person. So, I'm not just going to tomorrow pick up the phone and call my ex, hey, want to go to lunch? No, sweetie. Because then that's you being in stage 4 of the grief process, which we'll talk about. I think it's stage 4. Also a really good piece of advice for anybody whose breakup is super out of the blue and just so shocking that it kind of puts you in a state of like, oh, what's going on? During those days where it was really bad and I couldn't figure out what to do with myself, my sweet, sweet mother, God bless her, I don't know what I would do without her. Whenever we'd talk on the phone, she would be like, Shy, you literally just have to take it one day at a time. And there would be days where I'd be like, I cannot take it one day at a time. I can't even make it through this exact moment that I'm in right now. Like, I'm dying. What the fuck? And she was like, all right, then take it 10 minutes at a time. 10 minutes, 5 minutes, 1 minute. And I started laughing. I was like, how pathetic is that, that I have to take my day 10 minutes at a time? Like, this is so embarrassing. All I did was get broken up with, like, nobody died, da da da, whatever, shaming myself for it. And she's like, stop. Like, you're experiencing loss. This is a very complicated human experience that no one gets to decide how it should be for your personal experience. It doesn't matter how long you've been together. None of the details matter. What you're experiencing emotionally matters, and that's what you have to deal with is what's in front of you. So I was like, all right, here we are taking it 10 minutes at a time. How embarrassing. But what I will say is doing that really works because it just forces you to put one foot in front of the other. Tunnel vision. Don't think about all the logistics of the future. Don't think about what you're going to do when you run into them. Don't think about the stuff that's at their house that you have to get from them. Like, just 1 minute at a time. You're literally in survival mode, and it's so dramatic to say, but it's true. The brain goes into fight or flight, and it's crazy. Getting closure is something that obviously everybody wants in a breakup, but something that I learned in this situation specifically is that sometimes it's not always imperative that you have that. I think that finding the lesson internally is always doable, and it doesn't require the other party to provide you that sense of security that you need. I think that having a conversation to clear the air if things didn't go well during the breakup is always a great idea, but like circling back to get answers or clarity, like, it's just going to hurt you in the long run. And it's just, again, part of that stage 4 of bargaining where you're trying to find reasons to go back and talk to them. Don't do any of that. I used to be a big, big fan of that when I was like 15. And I was in this relationship that was on and off for 6 years or something crazy. And I would just always find reasons to hit him up. I'm like, hey, you remember that one time that we picked up a caterpillar together? Where is he? Do you have him? Because I need him. No, sweetie, you don't need the caterpillar. Okay. Um, so yeah. Knowing that grieving a relationship is normal is a huge piece of advice that I will give to y'all as well. And by the way, if anyone's curious where I got all this information, 25% my own experience, 25% the experience and the advice of others, and 50% research and reading materials that I've gone through over the course of my life. Some of them in the more recent present, because I do like to research things when I'm going through trouble. I don't know why, but Google is my best friend. Catch me literally looking up, why did I just get dumped? Like, no cap. Google must have the answer because I don't. The grieving part is really important. I just want to reemphasize that point about knowing that it's normal to grieve, because I think that part of the whole battle is not allowing yourself to feel the feelings because you're embarrassed of whatever it is that you think showing weakness means. Therefore, you're trying to mask it and suppress it, which doesn't allow you to truly process it and heal. And then those emotions get stored in the body as energy, but it's toxic energy, and that manifests as disease, discomfort, dysfunction, you name it. It's not a vibe and you don't want it. So if you need to cry, just fucking cry. Like, sorry to cuss and throw the F-bomb at you, but like, crying is healthy. It actually releases physical pain from your body, like emotional pain. So do it. One thing that I found in my research is a quote that said, control the controllable. And this was really helpful for me in the beginning stages because one of the first weekends after we broke up, I went to a music festival and I had friends visiting me in Dallas. So I was super busy and didn't have time to think about the breakup. Then one of the following weekends, I was not doing anything and I had way too much time to just sit and think and ponder. And I was sad. And so I implemented this control the controllable idea into my routine because I just figured, okay, if I can trick my brain into just being hyper focused on other things, then I won't have all this time to wander off into other thought patterns and, do that thing where you spiral and you start to just replay everything in your head. I just need to be focused and busy because usually if I have a day where I don't have anything that's pressing on my agenda, it's like, hallelujah, this is the best day ever because I can just do whatever I want. But when you're really depressed and you're going through something like that, those days are like the worst because you just will wallow in your self-pity. So I made a list. I revamped my list habits that I used to do for school because they always made me feel really empowered. Just to be able to make a list of everything that I needed to do and checking things off the list is something that I use as a psychology hack for myself as a successful woman Um, and in this case scenario, I took it down all the way to the most basic parts of my day that I needed to do, like meditation, going for a walk, running an errand, reading, everything. Every single thing that I needed to do. If it was watching TV, it didn't matter what it was. If it was gonna be included on my day, I put it on the damn list and I checked it off when it was done. And it's, like, such a weird hack. I feel really weird to even be sharing that because it's so strange, but it truthfully was so helpful for me, and I do think that it could help other people who are super anxious because part of the whole shock to the system that comes with the breakup is your brain starts to obsess over the future and like what's going to happen when I see them, what's going to happen when this comes up or that comes up, or what could I have done differently, or what should I have done differently, what's wrong with me, just all those thoughts that are just really energy draining and they're not productive. Like they're not going to get you through the breakup quicker, they're not going to bring your person back if that's what you want, and they're definitely not going to help you learn your lesson better just by spiraling. So you have to really, really try to harness that energy and that brain power into legit anything else, anything at all. It's a great opportunity to harness it into something super positive, which is the best part because, I mean, y'all have seen people who go through crazy glow ups or revenge bods after they get broken up with, like it's a thing. So get to it, honey. This is a good one. This was one that I had really had to learn that I think will be helpful for the dumpies of the world. Knowing that a relationship ending doesn't make it pain free, this is something that I have always had a really hard time believing. I always thought that if somebody broke up with somebody else, it's just because they didn't love them and they didn't care, and it just wasn't something that would be hard and painful for them. And I genuinely thought that about my situation with my ex. I just fully convinced myself for no reason that he didn't care. Just because somebody breaks up with somebody does not mean that it's easy, and it does not mean that they're not going through something. So empathizing the other side of the situation is really important. And it goes back to that whole unconditional love approach that I talked about with thanking somebody for breaking up with you. And that's something that I want to implement moving forward in my life, should I ever get broken up with again. And it's something that I highly encourage everybody that I know to do as well, because obviously there's subjective situations where the person could just be a total jerk and they don't care and maybe they are pain free, but in most cases, that's not how it works. Just remember that it does take courage and it does take a strong person to walk away from a relationship. A lot of people will just cheat and do shady stuff like that. The physical pain thing too that I wanted to talk about is huge. So there's a ton of physical symptoms that you can experience as a result of loss. This goes for grieving relationships, grieving obviously past family members or friends or loved ones of any kind, like anything associated with loss, the body is impacted by it due to the psychological distress that's occurring in the brain. So some of the things that you can experience are obviously crying, shocker, different types of headaches, sleep disturbance, exhaustion, a loss of appetite, an increase in appetite, stomach aches, general aches and pains, and then an actual heartache, which that was the craziest one to me. I was like, "Oh my gosh, there's no way. This is false." But it's true and it's really sad. So if you're going through it, give yourself a hug and just let yourself go through it because shit's hard and you don't need to be mean to yourself in the process. Make it harder on yourself. I don't know what a heartache would feel like, but now I'm curious. Like, is it like heartburn or chest pain? I don't know. Either way, that's really sad. Regardless of these physical symptoms, you can mitigate them and alleviate many of them if you allow yourself to actually process, not suppressing emotions and masking by engaging in toxic activities or addictive activities. A lot of people will, go party a lot or bury themselves in drugs or who knows. There's tons of ways that you could take that energy and do something really toxic and negative with your life. And there's also tons of ways that you could do the opposite. Just a reminder that if you're going through anything, don't use that as an excuse to go throw your life away because it's not going to help you. It sucks to feel your emotions. It sucks to feel pain. It sucks to be vulnerable. It sucks to be heartbroken. All of that shit sucks. I'm not here to tell you that it doesn't. I'm not here to tell you that it's easy. I'm not even here to tell you that it's worth it because I know that shit sucks and that sometimes there's days where I'm like, I would rather just drown myself in a bottle of wine than think about this for another second. Of course, we all feel that way. It's painful, but It's part of the human experience, and believe it or not, it's what we came here to experience. So learn from it, accept it, welcome it, invite it, process it, and let that shit go. It will leave if you allow it to teach you what it needs to teach you. Something that I tend to do is really ruminate in the details of the experience rather than just see it from a high level and say positive affirmations and move on. It's really great to be reflective and aware of your own behaviors. Thinking through all that is great because it's going to empower you as an individual, and it's going to empower you to go into your next relationship as a better version of yourself and not repeat any past mistakes that you've made. But if you sit there and you just psychoanalyze the shit out of the breakup and the conversations that you had, when you beat yourself down and you just are in a mindset of despair and negativity, that's not productive. That will not get you anywhere. You cannot hate yourself into improvement. So drop that pity party act immediately if you're that type of person, because it's not helpful and it never will be. And also, if you're in that state and you're struggling with your mental health, it's okay to admit that. It's okay to reach out for help. It's okay to not be okay. That is such a cliche thing and it's such a cringy thing. And sometimes I freaking hate when people say it, but like one of my best friends said it to me during my breakup, and I didn't find it cringy when she said it because it hit so hard and it just was exactly what I needed to hear. Anybody with half a brain cell and one eyeball that has me on social media knows that I'm going through a breakup because of what I post, because I'm just open about it. I don't want to hide it and I don't want to pretend I'm okay. I don't want to act like everything's good because it's not. And that doesn't help anybody if I'm pretending. So if you're not okay, reach out to somebody, lean on the people you love. And if you don't have anybody in your life that you can lean on, reach out to me, which I hope that nobody would need that. But if you do, I'm here. If you don't want to reach out to me, there's communities all over the internet that can support you. So you're not alone. You're never alone, especially when it comes to breakups. This is so common. That's a great way to engage in self-care too, actually, is joining communities or just finding content that may make you feel better about what you're going through, whether it's a breakup or the death of a spouse or a divorce or whatever it may be. There's so many things online that you can be a part of that can make you feel that sense of community and that sense of support that will help you get through something traumatic. Another thing that I've been doing from a self-care perspective that I would definitely recommend doing, because obviously self-care is important and you should have a regime. Is it regime? I don't know how to say that word. I always do this. Whatever. You should have a self-care routine regardless that you should be doing daily or weekly, whatever works for you. But when you go through a breakup, you really need to like amp it up, to make sure that you're doing good and that you're staying on top of taking care of yourself, obviously. One of the things that I did that I find to be kind of strange that maybe people don't think of or have never really done, or maybe they do, I don't know, it's new for me, is a breakup meditation. So I'm a big fan of meditation. I meditate every single morning, but a breakup meditation is not something that I've ever done. It's not something that I've ever felt like I needed to do. So I did it and it was extremely helpful. Very, very, very helpful. I would highly recommend doing that to anybody who is like me, where they just want so badly to be able to process it as quickly as possible and just let it go and move on. I was so fixated on like, I got to get through this as quick as possible. I got to have no downtime. Hot girl summer is around the corner. Like there can be no depressed girl summer. We have things to do, people to see, lakes to go on. You know what I mean? Like you get it. You guys get it. There's shit that we need to do. I can't be rotting all the time. I have to be out and about, having a good time and living my best life because that's what I deserve. So getting through the breakup as quick as possible will support me in doing that. And I will say, I think the meditations were like the best thing for me personally. Um, yeah, I don't know. I can't recommend them enough. It accesses your subconscious mind in a way that I don't know how to do outside of meditation. And it just was really a great experience. 10 out of 10. I know I said this in the beginning too. Don't be afraid to cry. It is such a good physical release of anger, fear, sadness, pain. So just do it. Something else that I saw in my research that I'm not sure that I can really support is to not withdraw socially. That's probably a good point for most people, but being an only child and someone who really likes to go inward when they are struggling, I do not align with this. But I did want to share it because I do feel like it's probably something that most people should listen to. Leaning on people that you love is important, obviously, but I'm just not that type of person. Like I do, but I don't at the same time. Last couple things that I want to share with you lovely, beautiful people is the 5 stages of grief. So this is something that's just important to be aware of, I feel, when you're going through grief of any kind. It looks different for everyone. Don't assume that you're going to go through all of these in a cookie cutter fashion in the exact order that they're outlined in. This is just a general outline of what most people experience and how most brains process grief. The first stage is denial. So you just basically haven't accepted that it happens. It hasn't really set in yet. You're not really having an emotional reaction. Sometimes this is really a short period of time. Sometimes it's a long period of time. If you're like going out to the bars and drinking your sorrows away, it'll probably last you a while. Second one is anger. This is where I tend to live. I go all the way from anger straight to acceptance usually. Or no, I go like depression, anger, acceptance. But anyways, second stage is anger, apparently. The third stage is bargaining. This is when you try to like do the little dance, make a little love, get down tonight, whatever. You try to hit them up about random stuff, repair the relationship, get them back, talk to them about random things, have a conversation for closure, whatever it may be. The next phase is depression. So that's fun. But the great part about hitting the depression phase is that's how you know that you're almost through it, because then you reach acceptance, which is ultimately healing. Now that I think about it, now that I'm reflecting on my experience, I definitely went from anger to depression to acceptance, and now we're good. So yeah, I mean, truthfully, I'm proud of myself for where I'm at. And I'm here to tell you that you can make it through the 5 stages pretty quickly if you hustle the troops, if you rally the troops and you get a good Jesus Christ. The last thing I want to leave you guys with is just a reminder to please not dismiss what you're going through if you're going through a breakup of any caliber from a relationship of any length. It is real. It is a valid experience. It impacts your life. It impacts your mental health, which impacts your physical health, which impacts your overall well-being and just your life in general. Love yourself through it. Get the help that you need. Implement the practices that you need. I love you guys. If you made it to the end of this episode, I love you millions. I can't thank you enough for listening to me and my stupid problems. I hope this was helpful to you in one way or another. If you're going through a breakup, just know that you're not alone. I love you. I'm here for you. I see you. I empathize with you. And I'm sending you all the love and light and the healing energy that the world has to offer. Cheers. Bye, y'all.